Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. So for those new to the channel, my name's Sean, also known as Film Guru, and I started this channel to have my variety of say on movies, TV shows, a variety of other film content, so thanks for joining me today. So I want to start to do my videos a bit differently. I've decided to try something a bit different because I just feel like I don't have a lot to say, and there's so many reviewers out there saying the same things on the same movies. So my idea is to do more reviews that analyse movies. I want to get rid of the scoring system and just talk about whether the films I review are worth checking out or not. So the first film I'm going to review in this particular style is going to be Pig. This was directed by Michael Sarnoski and stars Nicolas Cage, Alex Wolff and Adam Arkin. The film really focuses on Rob, played by Nicolas Cage, a recluse living in the woods. His only company is his pet pig. One night his pig is taken. Rob sets it on a journey to find his friend. He has to return to a world he left behind to find the truth. Like it says in the title, this is going to be a spoiler review. I'm going to break down what I liked about this movie and get to the essence of what it was trying to say, what I thought it was trying to say. The film is about an experience rather than just viewing this movie. You really become immersed in it, but you've got to go in not knowing too much, because that's the best way to enjoy this film. If you don't want any spoilers about this movie and you really want to see it, turn this video off and go and watch it. This is one of the most surprising films I've seen this year. It's profound, sad, beautiful, all at the same time. Nicolas Cage is just phenomenal here. This is one of his best performances in a long time. This and Mandy are the two performances he's done in recent years that have really shown that he's still such a great actor, even though he does a variety of these other sort of B-grade-ish movies. He's a very constant actor, and as he's gotten older, he's been able to have some really great roles, and this is an example of it. It's a very internal role. He doesn't say much throughout the film, but when he does, it has impact and power. And he just sort of has his presence when he's there. We see flares of the Nicolas Cage we know, but also the real dramatic side of him that we got to see in his early career. And he really shines here. He's a really fascinating actor who does such a brilliant job with his character. What I like about this film is it's broken up into particular parts, and each part has a heading regarding to some sort of food or cooking. And that sort of breaks up the movie. I really like this. So we work out that ultimately he's a chef and he makes these things. He lives out in the wilderness for a reason we don't know to begin with. And along with his pig, they go hunting for truffles. With the truffles, he sells them ultimately in return for goods rather than money. This is where we're introduced to Alex Wolff's character, Amir. When we first meet him, he's sort of stuck up. He's sort of self-absorbed and he feels kind of pretentious and annoying, and he isn't a very likable character to begin with. But as the film develops and goes on, we get to see different sides to him. We get to see he has a really bad relationship with his father, played by Alan Arkin, and that he's trying to impress his father. He's trying to be something. He's trying to prove he is worthy to be in the industry that his father's in. And he comes across in such a schmucky way, but there's a real heart and intelligence there. We just don't get to see it when we first meet him. What sets Rob off on the journey is ultimately one night he's attacked by these two drug addict tweakers who end up taking his pig. We don't know why to begin with, and as he goes on the journey, it's kind of revealed. We get to learn that it's really Amir's father who's taken the pig, because it's the idea that his father wants to control everything and control people and doesn't want his son to succeed at all. And he wants to strip away the things from him that could ultimately make him successful, because he doesn't think he's worthy of working in this sort of industry, because he thinks it'll eat his son alive. From there, we're introduced to this world. We go into the city, we're introduced to the world that Rob comes from. And we find out who he really is, that he was a chef, that he was a very successful chef, he had his own restaurant, and that he cooked for a lot of people, including Amir's father and mother. His food kind of brought people together and had an impact on them. And that's his connection to Amir and his father that Amir doesn't know to begin with and is revealed later in the movie. I kind of like this idea of him returning to the world he's left behind. A lot of people are saying this is the anti-John Wick film, and it kind of is in a little way. There is similarities between John Wick and Rob character. They're both sort of removed from the world they were part of for whatever particular reason. They're wronged in some way, which brings them back into the world. And it's about how we're introduced to the world through these characters. I thought that was a really interesting introduction to that. We get to see this particular underground fight club thing that Rob knows about from when he owned the restaurant, and waiters and stuff would fight to earn more money by beating people up. And he tries to get information out of a particular man that he knew. And the man talks about how Rob's name used to mean something but now it doesn't. It doesn't allow him to just come in demanding information. So he ultimately becomes a participant in the Fight Club thing where he gets beaten up for the information. This scene shows how far he will go, how strong he is, and also what he's capable of and what he can put himself through and still survive. And this is sort of sets him off on the journey, leading him from one place to another to try and find where his pig is and who's taking the pig. It's filled with really great sequences and scenes. It's very subtle in revealing the information about the story and the world. And we get to learn things as we go along of who Rob is, who turns out to be Robin, who is a really well-known, successful chef that disappeared 10 years prior. And it's about him returning to that and trying to rectify some relationships he had with particular people at that time when he just sort of disappeared and they didn't know what happened to him. There's a number of great sequences in this film. Most of the great sequences in the movie take place over a dinner table, them talking in a restaurant or a cafe or wherever, and that's where the sort of real emotional scenes are, and I really like that. It sort of keeps it contained and set in one location. So you're not distracted by anything around it, you're just focusing on the two actors and the conversation that these characters are having. He ultimately goes to a particular restaurant where the head chef there is someone he knew, or someone who worked for him that he fired because he burnt the pasta. And this particular man, when he was leaving this, talked about how he wanted to open an old English pub. Rob's surprised to find him in this particular restaurant cooking this food that he doesn't really like to cook that much, but he does it because he believes that's the way to be successful in the industry and in that particular town. And Rob explains to him that none of this matters. These people aren't real. What they think isn't real. What you're doing isn't real. It's like he's stripping him down. It's like he's reminding him what he really wanted to do, his dreams but stripping him bare to make him realize what's important in life. And that's what I feel with the Robin character throughout the movie. Whenever he interacts with someone, he affects them in some way. Whether it's verbally, whether it's being supportive, like becoming sort of a surrogate father to Amir, and the way he's much more of a father figure to Amir than his actual father is. And just the people that he comes into contact with. There's a sequence where he returns to the old house that he used to live in with his wife, and there's a little boy there, and they have this really interesting conversation, and it sort of sets up who Rob is, and he's a sweet and kind and quiet kind of man. And he's sort of struggling with things, and there's things he's been holding on to for so long. And through his journey, he's able to let go of those things and sort of become free. He finds closure in his journey. And I really thought that was a really great way to go with his character. It isn't like a huge arc for him, but it's just the ultimate acceptance and closure that he really wants. And he ultimately finds out where the pig is. He goes to Amir's father to try and get the pig back, and he won't give it back to him. So he comes up with this plan, this idea to make this meal, this particular meal that he made for Amir's father and mother many years prior, and how that had an effect on them, and they talked a lot about it, and that was the only moment they were really happy after that particular dinner. So he sets off to cook that particular dinner for Amir's father, to try and get an emotion out of him, to try and resort him back to something that he can sort of talk to and realize what he's doing is wrong. And it's about him going to get the ingredients for that. And Amir goes off on his journey to help as well. And we learn information along the way of Amir's journey to get these particular ingredients for this meal he wants to make. That Robin was married, and that his wife is dead now, and that he's sort of stepped away, and he's got all these things hidden around the city in particular places being held by certain people. And he sort of goes to this bakery where he has to pick up some shortbread and a variety of things for the meal. And this is where he sort of comes into contact with a young woman who obviously worked for Robin or his wife many years ago. Tried to keep the place the same, hoping he would return someday to sort of become the chef he was, and he never did. So she turned into a bakery. And it's just a really great moment between the two where they have this little conversation about the past, and she talks about why she changed the place. This sort of closure for her as well. And she sort of hugs him. He doesn't know how to react, but she sort of hugs him as if to say, thank you, I'm glad you're still alive, and thanks for everything you've done, and I miss you. And it's this really great embrace, and I love that. The film sort of slowly picks up in the third act towards the ending, where Robin makes this meal for Amir's father, and his father reveals ultimately, unfortunately, the pig was killed. The two who took the pig were too rough with it and it died. He breaks down, he falls down in the middle of this room. It goes silent, and it's really just about shots of Amir and his father watching this big man on the ground in tears, crying over the loss of his pet. And it's a powerful moment that could have had the sound of him crying, but it was more powerful the way it was done. And I thought this was really, really great, and it's a really powerful sequence. And it's sort of, in the end, he's able to let go of that. He's able to find closure and move on. And he's ultimately shows Amir there's much more to life than what he thinks. And he doesn't have to follow in his father's footsteps. He can make his own way. And it's about Amir's journey, his arc from being this sort of stuck-up sort of character who's so eager to please his father. And whenever he's in his father's presence, he returns to being a child and he's scared of his father, to this young guy who makes a decision of who he wants to be and what he wants to do from the support and guidance from Robin. And it sort of ultimately ends with Robin back in his cabin. He doesn't have his pig, he doesn't have anything, and he tells Amir he'll see him next week, and it's like he's sort of found that closure he's been so seeking for, and he's able to let go of things. And he's able to play this tape that he tried to play at the beginning of the film but couldn't bring himself to. He played it briefly, and it's the sound of a young woman singing. And it's obviously his wife. That's what I got from it, and it's the impact of that he can't listen to. But at the end, he's able to put that on. It's like he's able to move forward again. He's able to accept his place in life and be happy with what he has and who he is and the person he's slowly grown into that is who he always wanted to be. This film is just fantastic. It's on my top 10 of the year. It's number 1 for me. I just thought it was brilliantly done. Nick Cage is fantastic in it. I love the way it's done. I love the simple story, the subtleness of it. I love that the information about these characters is slowly trickled through as the film unfolds. I like the journey that Amir and Robin go on, and what they both get from that journey and what they both get from each other is really powerful. It's just a really fantastic film. Final thoughts. In the end, the film is really about a man returning to his past and a world he left behind to get back to the thing that he really loves and the only thing he can really connect to. So is this film worth checking out? Absolutely. If you like Nicolas Cage and you like to see him in a really interesting and dramatic role where he's able to shine and show his acting skills, it's worth checking out. If you want a film about a simple story introduced to a particular world that not everybody's familiar with, and the journey that this character goes on in the arc that other characters go on, this is definitely worth checking out. I was really blown away by this and so surprised. I thought this film was fantastic. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit subscribe down the bottom. Follow me on Facebook and Letterboxd. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.